When we played Freeney, unless it was a three-step drop, we were double teaming him.
He has so much in his toolbox. I think he's one of the best players in the league that you have to deal with.
I remember when he slapped me, he broke my rib. That's what I remember. I came off the field, I'm like, God, dog, my rib hurts. What happens? And the thing was cracked, and he slapped me and broke it. But I got even.
Welcome back to Coach. I'm Matt Patricia, and this is Coach Bill Belichick. Coach, we're into week 4. We're going to talk here Tuesday players, game changers. We're going to talk pass rush. That's going to be great. Situational football, we're going to roll into some hard count, some cadence, and then we're going to go back into the library and we're going to talk tackling fundamentals.
Well, tackling is the oldest fundamental in the book for a defensive player. That's been day one, how to get the guy with the ball on the ground. The pass rushers, we'll look at some of the old pass rushers, some of the great ones, and to some of the modern day pass rushers and see what that looks like. And then situationally, the hard count. Defense has some answers for that too. It's not just the offense trying to draw the defense offside. Defense knows how to handle that stuff too. So that's an interesting matchup in situational football.
Yeah, it's going to be a fun week 4. Here we go. Coach, theme of the week, pass rushers.
It's a lot of fun for those defensive players, and they can tee off on the quarterback. It goes all the way back, starting with Deacon Jones, father of the head slap. Lawrence Taylor, maybe the greatest pass rusher of all time. He had a great array of moves. Reggie White, certainly the best power rusher of all time. These guys really put up some incredible numbers. 8 Pro Bowls for Jones. Taylor, 3-time player of the year. Reggie White, 12 years, double-digit sacks. They were very hard to stop.
Yeah, these are kind of the legendary, what we would call Tuesday players that now become really game changers, those guys that you absolutely had to game plan for. I remember actually hearing a story a long time ago about Deacon Jones. He actually used to tape thumbtacks to his fingers because he would so deadly with that head slap there, that everyone would be worried about it. But guys that just revolutionized the position, and really when we start talking about sacks and, some of that production that those guys would have coming off the edge, these guys kind of, embody all of that in really 3 different eras.
Yeah, we just picked out 3 guys. There's a host of players we could have chosen, but I think these guys just epitomize what pass rushing, how that's evolved over the years. So we'll go to some tape and start with Deacon Jones. There he is, taking off his helmet, and he had a good look on him. Very long arms, wrapped these quarterbacks up. He was a terror coming off the defensive left side. Here he is, Craig Morton, getting a strip sack.
Coming off the bus, if he came off first, I think automatically the offensive tackles, they're worried as soon as you see him coming onto the field.
Yeah, put the tight end over on that side.
Yeah, give me some help as much as you can.
And Lawrence Taylor, I had the great honor to coach LT for a decade. What a tremendous athlete he was. He had a great get-off, could power rush, speed rush, and had a variety of moves. You see the running back trying to cut him coming off the edge. You can forget about that. Jaworski probably still feels that hit.
I think one of the things that's unbelievable when you watch LT highlights is just how fast and explosive he was to get to the quarterback and how hard he hit when he got there.
He had a tremendous impact, but just his acceleration off the blocker and into contact, he created a lot of problems. Here is against the Lions, the guard's trying to scan out and get him, and here's his power rush. One arm, reaches over there, grabs Danielson, tosses him down.
I think that's one of the things people don't understand about Lawrence Taylor. Like, he changed how offenses had to block the protections themselves. You try to tackle, you try to guard, you try to tight end, and a tackle. It just kept coming. They just tried to figure out ways to stop them.
Didn't take too long until they put tackles on him, though, all the time. You just couldn't put anybody else that would have really a good chance on it. This was the Thanksgiving Day game in Detroit, picking off Danielson here and going down the sideline. You see how fast he's running. He's really about 40 yards ahead of the defense, but he sees the shadow of his teammate right here out of the corner of his eye, and he thinks it's the opponent that's chasing him. So I think that's actually Toast Patterson. But Lawrence is striding it out here.
Yeah, he's running, Coach. He's not getting caught.
That's as fast as he can go. There's no way. He's 50 yards ahead of the field. But this is a cheat. I think he was out for 2 series after that while he was catching his breath. But that was a heck of a play on Thanksgiving.
Yeah, and I think the thing people don't realize is he was actually a gunner too, right, on the punt team.
He was. Yeah, he could do it all. Tremendous athlete. Reggie White, our next guy, is really the ultimate power rusher. He had a famous hump move where he would start to run this slap uppercut right here, and then when it got the tackle off balance, he'd take his right arm and just flip him underneath his shoulder pad. Here's a great example of it right here, and then tackle the quarterback.
This is an unbelievable clip.
This is Larry Allen, who's one of the strongest players to ever play in the National Football League. Great lower body strength, 700-pound bench presser. There's White with the hump move right underneath that shoulder pad and into the quarterback.
Yeah, there's real grown men, and then there's grown men in this league. And Allen was one of those guys that unbelievable to see someone do that to him, and that's how strong Reggie White was.
Yeah, Reggie with the Packers, really the first highest profile free agent, really started free agency going. Had a huge contract there when Ron Wolf signed him in Green Bay. And again, he just had the strength to toss guys out of the way.
That might have looked good on paper, Coach, going into the game plan. I don't think Chris Carter really was enjoying that one too much right there.
No, and the Super Bowl play here against the Patriots where he, again, his famous hump move where those tackles, it was so hard to stop him coming around the edge. And when the tackles got a little bit of their momentum going to the outside, Reggie took that inside arm, that right arm, and could just flip him over. And there he is sacking Bledsoe in the Super Bowl.
That's a great look at it, too. Honestly, the tackle looks like he's in a good balanced position right there, like he's not going to get thrown by. But Reggie just had such a good feel for when that upper body tilt came and he hit you with that hump move. There was no way to stop it.
Yeah, there are a lot of other great pass rushers, too. We'll take a look at a few of those. We start with just guys, mentioned Bruce Smith, 200 career sacks. What a great career he had at Buffalo. He caused a lot of havoc in that AFC. Luckily, most of that time I was with the Giants, and we didn't have to deal with him. But what a great player he was in Buffalo.
Yeah, unreal. And then Willie McGinnis, obviously someone that we had the great pleasure to coach. Most sacks in the postseason all time. He was, you talk about players that come through in big games.
Big games.
Willie McGinnis came through in big games. We needed him. He made some huge plays for us and really won because of him.
He could play the run. He could rush the passer. He was a great power rusher, too, for a guy who was 260, 65 pounds. But like you said, in the postseason, 16 sacks. Fantastic.
Yeah, he was unbelievable.
Jason Taylor, another great player, former Defensive Player of the Year. And, Jason had tremendous production, first as a defensive end in Dave Wanstead's defense, then as an outside linebacker in Coach Saban's defense, when he was Defensive Player of the Year. I know he had some reservations about playing outside linebacker, but boy, he adjusted that quickly, and what a great athlete he is.
Yeah, he impacted that position. I mean, it really didn't matter. Defensive end, outside linebacker, he's coming off the edge. You had problems on offense trying to deal with him for sure.
You know a little bit about this Dwight Freeney.
Yeah, Dwight had him in college. He was an unbelievable college. I think he was our entire third down package, honestly. Like, it didn't matter what coverage we were playing at Syracuse. He just came off the edge. But I think the unbelievable thing about Dwight was people knew how fast and how quick he was, but he had great length, and his explosive power was something I think that really set everything up for him. He could just get into you with the speed to power rush. Really, you're a big offensive tackle. He could rock you and bring you all the way back. So now you're sitting a little bit heavy, and then he could transition to his edge speed and just dynamic player. And then he had the spin counter off of it, which was unstoppable.
Move. Yes, the spin move was devastating. When we played Freeney, unless it was a three-step drop, we were double teaming him. That's the only time. Screens, draws, and three-step drop. The only time we single blocked him.
Yeah, and if he was out of the game, then you definitely wanted to throw.
Yeah, that's the time to chuck it.
You couldn't get him out of the game that much.
Yeah, he didn't come out of the game. He didn't come out of the game. And then J.J. Watt, three-time Defensive Player of the Year, another versatile player, played outside on the offensive tackles, moved inside on the guard and center on all downs, but especially on passing downs. He was a great matchup player. Again, tremendous length. He batted down a lot of balls, had a strong rush. Very instinctive player. This guy was a major problem.
Yeah, I mean, he was one of the most productive defensive players for a stretch there. And like you mentioned, it wasn't only just in one spot. Honestly, he made everybody prepare for him game day and try to figure out how you're going to stop him. That was a huge problem.
These guys had great careers, and we can keep going. But let's go to some of our current rushers that are in the league now that are really Tuesday players. If you're playing against these guys, you better have a plan for them. You just can't leave them one-on-one against these tackles very often or very long, or it's going to end up bad. Myles Garrett has had a tremendous career already. This guy is a total freak athlete. Big, fast, powerful, great motor, very instinctive. Just a tremendous player that has a great array of skills, similar to Taylor.
Yeah, and he's one of those guys you look at and you see on tape just the length and the power and the speed. He's got it all. And you're trying to get ready for a game plan against this guy. Maybe I'm going to set him a certain way. He has so much in his toolbox. I think he's one of the best players in the league that you have to deal with.
Tough guy too. Shows up every week, and he plays even when he gets banged up, and obviously he's targeted every week. As is Bosa. Nick Bosa has been a tremendous player for the 49ers. Got great one-step get-off quickness, can beat you on that first step. But, he has very good athleticism and speed. He can close to the quarterback in a hurry.
He's another one that has that explosive power where if you, setting him a little bit too soft for that speed and he hits you with some power coming right through in that, in the chest area, he's going to rock you all the way back to the quarterback.
Yeah, and same thing with Crosby. Crosby's similar to Bosa, great get-off, great motor, very explosive player. We practiced against him a couple years ago out in Las Vegas, and being on the practice field with him, you really could get a good feel for his get-off and explosiveness. One thing about these three guys, when we watch them, we'll see is how direct their path is to the quarterback. They don't run around the great circle route. They go right at the quarterback, beat the blocker quickly, counter him quickly, or power rush him if they have to, but they don't waste any time running sideways. They get to the quarterback in a hurry and do a great job of getting the blocker off balance and then getting on one side or the other of them and getting to the quarterback.
Yeah, they direct path right to the quarterback as fast as they can. And the other thing I would say about these three is they're coming every play. There's really not a lot of, they don't really take any plays off and say, I just had a big, they're just coming like nonstop. And I think, that's the thing that just makes them so difficult when you're trying to game plan is like you have to account for them on every play.
Yeah, and they all have good length, so throwing around them that's a problem too. Batted balls and terror screens and things like that, where you got to throw the ball down the line of scrimmage and navigate the length and the athleticism of these guys. That's really a problem.
Great athletes that can turn and get out of that pass rush lane and get back into the play, and they can make some plays downfield too.
Yeah, let's take a look at some video here. Myles Garrett, here he is over here on the defensive right side. This is usually where he lines up. Again, the big thing about these guys, we'll see on all of them, is a lot of straight line right to the quarterback. They, dip and wiggle past the tackle, but it's not this. They go straight through them, and they take the fight to those tackles right away. So a great rip here by Garrett, gets underneath the punch, and it's got that strength to lift up, through the blocker's arm, and blindsides Prescott.
Attacks the quarterback's arm. And, we talk a lot with pass rush about, tackle set points, offensive tackle set points. Are you on the spot, under the spot, over the spot? If you're on the spot, hit your best pass rush move. And that's a great example there, right there with Garrett, just that uppercut rip, but really his ability to turn that toe and get it pointed back at the quarterback, where now he's constantly moving at the quarterback in that pass rush lane.
Yeah, the pass rush path for these outside rushers that looks like this instead of like that. Those two steps make a big difference between whether the quarterback gets the ball off or not. And these guys all have the ability to do it. Here he is coming off the edge. There's that same dip move. Tackle doesn't quite get out far enough. And, another strip sack there on Lawrence.
Turnovers on top of sacks and production. It's so devastating in the pocket when you got guys in the edge that can do this.
Jimmy Schwartz is defensive coordinator, does a nice job moving around. Normally he's over here. Now he's over here on the defensive left side, the offensive right. So you don't always know where he's going to be. Sometimes it's hard to get him. But here's a good example of the tackle setting up high on him and taking away that edge rush. And similar to what Reggie White did, you see Garrett take his right arm, sling the blocker outside and tackle Jackson.
Yeah,
you can see, it's just tough for even athletic quarterbacks like Lamar Jackson to get away from a guy like Myles Garrett.
Yeah, we talk about blowing the inside pec there. When you get that tackle moving a little bit, and you could see him reset his arm up underneath the, the armpit pec area of the tackle and just shove him by and be able to counter, at the level of the quarterback.
Yeah, excellent rush. Bosa generally plays over here on the defensive left. Here he is over here on the right. Can obviously play both sides, and again, he's a matchup problem too. But this is really a nice move right here. You see Bosa's hand quickness when the tackle sets out to punch him. Bosa slaps his hands down so that there's no punch, and then he's another guy kind of like Taylor that can really accelerate to the quarterback. And guard's looking to help him out here. They're looking to double team him, but Bosa's just so fast and he accelerates so quickly. If you're going to double team this guy, you better get out there and double him and decide how long you want to spend on these inside players. But if Bosa's on your side, you better get out there and get him.
Yeah, even with the back over to his side with a little bit of that chip help presentation, and the back doesn't really chip him, but you can see Bosa really sit the tackle right there, kind of make the tackle stop, and then transition back and get his hip around to finish off the rush. It's a really good look at it.
This time, Bosa's over here on the defensive left side, right side for the offense. And again, his get-off just attacks the tackle, goes right at him, punches with that left hand, gets the tricep there, all right, pushes that arm down, and then there's the acceleration. This guy has great closing speed to the quarterback. Just half a step there on that tackle, and it's all over.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things you see the tackle there tried to quick set him a little bit, change up the pass set. And if you do that and miss, his acceleration of the quarterback, the play's over.
You're not going to catch this guy, not these offensive linemen. Here he is over here. Same idea here, swiping those hands down and turning the corner quickly, closing here on the quarterback. Look out.
Yeah, and those plays in the red area, we know how important that is. And, great player making a great play in the red area, just beats the tackle clean. And, blindside shot on the quarterback, that's a big play. And another player we can take a look at here, Coach, is really Max Crosby. He's another guy coming off the edge that I think for teams, they have to deal with him. You got to find out where he is.
He's usually over here on the offensive right, the defensive left, but he's another guy that can move around. Great get off. Here's the tight end trying to slow him down. And, Crosby, deals with him, then gets to the tackle. Again, like we've seen before, the slap, uppercut, and then turning the corner here, getting that inside shoulder down, squeezing the pocket so the quarterback can't step up. And all these guys are good finishers.
Yeah.
Garrett, Crosby, Boza, they're all good, strong tacklers and good finishers. Once they get their mitts on these quarterbacks, they wrap them up.
Yeah, and you can really see that exactly what you were mentioning before. Obviously, the upper body control, but the lower body control. Once they get that hip to hip with the tackle, the toe, they're pulling themselves through, and then their upper body's catching up and they're getting to the quarterback.
Here he is over on the right side, trying to bring the two tight ends over to double team him on this play action. I don't know about leaving tight ends on this guy. It's kind of like when they tried to do it with Taylor, put the tight ends and guards and backs on them. These tackles are getting paid a lot of money. They probably have the best chance, but he sheds them pretty quickly. And then again, his closing speed of the quarterback is really good. And Crosby reads this quickly. He doesn't really suck down in here and take the run fake. He recognizes it's not a run, adjusts quickly, shed, and tackle.
Yeah, and you know what? That's a coaching chess match there sometimes, too. I think that would be a particular offensive scheme that, maybe we'd walk into your office and you'd be like, do we really want, the tight ends blocking Crosby? But maybe Crosby's been lining up on one side and you're kind of like, okay, we're going to slide to him and then put the backs on the opposite edge. And then all of a sudden he comes out and he's on the other side of the defense and, you've called that play and one of those situations comes up and it can really be a disaster for the offense.
Yeah. A lot of good pass rushers. These three guys are, definitely Tuesday players that you would have to game plan for. Get the ball out quick, throw some screens, run some misdirection plays, try to slow them down a little bit. And then if you want to hold the ball, make sure you have somebody banging them and double team and at least slow them down so they don't get a full run at the quarterback.
Yeah.
One thing I think all great pass rushers have is anticipation and instinct. A lot of times they can smell the pass, they can tell it's a pass by some key, and then that really gives them that extra get off at the line of scrimmage and really makes it tough on the offense. I thought Lawrence Taylor was probably the best I've ever coached at that. He could just tell by how scared the quarterback was if it was a pass. And if the quarterback was just la-di-da-di-da up to the line of scrimmage, he was handing the ball. If he didn't care, it wasn't his problem. But when it was a pass, he was worried about Taylor, and Taylor could just tell by that look, or sometimes by the way the tackle looked at him, of how scared the tackle was to block him, versus if it was a run and had to block somebody else, it didn't really matter. But when it was somebody else's problem, the line was more calm, the quarterback was more calm. The guy who was blocking him was always nervous, and Taylor could figure that out pretty quickly, what the play was, and he was very instinctive on that. The best I've ever coached.
Yeah, I think if I'm the quarterback and it's a pass play and I just called a pass play, I'm making sure, do we have enough guys on Lawrence Taylor? Because this guy's going to hit me really hard, and I got to make sure I get the ball off. I learned that as a young coach when I had the linebacker room that I coached with, obviously Vrabel and Willie and all those guys. But Roosevelt Colvin used to kind of, tease me all the time. He'd be like, don't worry about it, Matty P. It's either run or pass. I'll figure it out. We'd give him the tips and tendencies. And I learned very quickly was, hey, can we boil the game down? Can we really narrow it down to a run or pass tip so they can get off the ball and get after the quarterback? And I always enjoyed, we'd get into the spring, we'd get into those off-season kind of program days, and we do a lot of on-field coaching. And
yeah, this is a sore subject for me.
It's going to be. And sometimes, I think for us, we like to get hands-on. And then, you realize you get hands-on with some of these guys, and they're really big and they're really strong. And, it looks good, it sounds good until you actually get in there. And, we were going through pass rush fundamentals.
I remember.
With Rosie, and you were talking about the slap rip and countering back inside. And what do you kind of remember of that coaching lesson there with Rosie?
I remember when he slapped me, he broke my rib. That's what I remember. I came off the field. I'm like, God, dog, my rib hurts. What happens? And the thing was cracked, and he slapped me and broke it. But I got even. I stuck him in a locker for the rest of the spring with one of his teammates, Matt Light, and they had all their stuff together. The pictures of the wives were right next to each other.
Yeah.
It jammed in the same locker. And then Colvin came to me and later in the spring. He's like, "Hey, coach, like, how I didn't mean to do it, but like you didn't mean to do it. What did you mean to do? How long am I going to be in that locker?" I said, "You're going to be in that locker until my rib heals. That's how long you're going to be in there." And it looks like it's about 8 weeks now, so just get comfortable.
I remember, you were doing the pass sets as the offensive tackle, and we were walking through at a kind of a walk-through pace and going through the steps and the counters. And but to your credit, honestly, you didn't flinch, you didn't move, you passed that out. I saw Rosie; he took a cheap shot. It was a good uppercut to the rib. You kind of moved a little bit. We went on instructing, and then I noticed later, the rib was wrapped, and I was like, "Did you break that?" And you're like, "Yeah, absolutely broke the rib." We had some Purdue guys that kind of, they moved in groups. So, Rosie and obviously Matt Light, Purdue guys, stick him in the locker. That was great when they walked back in. And then we had another Purdue guy that showed up, Rob Ninkovich, and, he really came to me as a long snapper, and you sent him over.
He was a long snapper,
He was a long snapper. And
we were in training camp. We were down. We needed a backup long snapper. We needed another body to play outside linebacker. We were short on bodies. New Orleans had released them, and he was available, and we brought him in just as a camp body. He only played 1 year at Purdue, really. Well, he's there, but he only played until his senior year.
Yeah.
Had a pretty good senior year, had 9 or 10 sacks. And then there was a camp body, and so I said, he said, "Well, I can play defense." All right, well, I'll send him down to you and let him do some one-on-one pass rush.
Yeah, Purdue had some good rushers, in that stretch. They had a lot of guys kind of coming out there. And so he comes down to pass rush, and he's like, "I can rush." And, you've got the pass rush lines, and you've got the offense, defense, and it's training camp, and everybody's, they're angry with each other anyways. And Rob's asking me, and I was like, "All right, well who are you going to rush against?" And he's like, "Matt Light." And I'm like, "That's our best offensive lineman." Like, okay, like, you're right. But Rob was smart. He knew Light, knew him, knew how to rush him. And Rob, to his credit, had a great get off. He had a great rush, beat him clean, got around the edge, and I was like,
Dante went crazy.
Yeah.
Dante went berserk. What is going on here? This guy is, I don't even know who this guy is. Some camp guy come in here and you just whiffed on him late. Let's go. Let's do it again. Yep.
And Rob won again, and kind of like Rob, the legend of Rob was born. He just, slowly kind of worked his way in. But I just remember him coming down and saying, like, "You can run." All right, like, I thought you were over there hiking with the punters. Like, what are we doing now? And he just beat him clean off the edge. Rob had some real great sudden quickness that he could get those guys to flash their hands, flip his hips, great acceleration of the quarterback, and he was a real productive player for us.
Yeah, and it was Croatian too. Don't forget about that. So we know he's tough.
Yeah, that's right. He was going to be out there for sure. Absolutely. But I always think of those guys, pass rush, the Purdue contingency there for sure.
Yeah.
Coach, situational football, one of the things, again, for years just was, something we always just took advantage of. We had smart players. You got up in front of the team, coached it really well. We're going to talk cadence. We're going to talk quarterback cadence and how that can affect the game.
Well, cadence is one of the most fundamental parts of football, offensive football especially. As we'll see here in the definition, it's what the offense does to slow the defensive get-off, or to put it another way, to maximize the offensive get-off. The offense knows the snap count, the defense doesn't. And what we see a lot of today in the National Football League is the quarterback using the cadence to try to gain information, to see if he can see what the coverage is, to see if there's a potential blitzer who's starting to tip a blitz away, or maybe where the defense is, what they're trying to defend and how he can attack it. In other words, undressing the disguise. The defense is trying to disguise one thing. If the quarterback can undress it and get one of the defenders to jump or show where they're really going to go, then that helps him execute the play. So the cadence is a real tool for the offense to be able to control the defensive alignments and also to try to slow their get off at the line of scrimmage and help the offense move aggressively when the ball is snapped.
Yeah, and one of the things that we'll always kind of spend time on during the week is quarterback's cadence, his mannerisms at the line of scrimmage, and certainly with all the audio that we get from the TV copies and everything nowadays, that hard count, that kind of voice inflection that he can give you at the line of scrimmage to try to get that information from you.
Right. Quarterbacks in certain situations will use the hard count to try to get the defense to jump offside. And generally, this is at home. We'll talk about the road situation in a minute, but when he actually gives the cadence, usually at home, 4th and less than 5. So 4th down, penalty gives them the first down yardage. On 3rd down, to either shorten the 3rd down, or if it's less than 5, to pick it up. And the iceberg situation that we'll get into a little bit later, which involves the play clock and the game clock. But these situations for the offense are to try to get the defense to jump if they can on the hard count, and then if they don't, then they just go ahead and run the play that they have. So it's kind of free opportunity to use the defense's aggressiveness against them and try to get them to jump off sides.
And Coach, hard count is something that we would spend time on during the week with all the TV copies that we would get and microphones everywhere on the field. You know, we could get some good tips on that and just listen to the voice inflection and get the defensive guys used to the quarterback's cadence. And certainly from a quarterback perspective, even in the West Coast offense, a lot of those guys, they send the young quarterbacks home. They got to practice their cadence. They got to get into the hotel room. They got to get in the lobby. They got to use the voice inflection and try to, see if they can draw someone offside. So there's a little bit more practice that goes involved with that than just, kind of sending a guy out there to just run a cadence on the field. You really got to get good at it, and we've listened to some great ones. They're really, really influential when they use it.
Yeah, I think it's important for the offense to anticipate how the cadence is going to go so that they don't jump offside. And so it does take a lot of practice, real practice reps, so that the offense doesn't get nervous and jump when the quarterback does change his voice. I remember at the Giants, Coach Parcells got so upset at the offense for jumping offside when we tried to hard count that finally he just shut it down one year and said, anytime we're in the red area, we're going on 1. I don't care if they know, at least hopefully we'll get it right and we won't get penalized in the red area. So you got to make sure offensively that you don't trip yourself up on that. But, we'll watch Brady do it. He's really one of the very best. I thought he did a great job of it. Not only did he change his voice to get the defense to jump, but he combined it with his hand movement where he raised his hands if he was going to catch the ball from the center, but the center didn't snap it then. He snapped it on the harder count. So once the defense flinches into the neutral zone, Brady knows he's got a free play. Listen to the audio here. He does a good job of it.
Yeah, really great coordination there with the quarterback and the players being on the same page, and great execution when you have that. But you can really hear that voice inflection, like that really hard set hut. And the defensive guys are trying to get to him. Like they want to get there fast. And you can see how that influence really, it was a huge play for the offense.
Now, a guy that was really tough to deal with was Peyton Manning and his voice inflection and the hard count. We saw it from Brady every day in practice, but Manning was also very good at it. And one of the things that he did was use it on the second cadence. So he'd go through the cadence and then say Omaha, Omaha, which was kind of their, all right, let's start the cadence all over again. A lot of times the defenders would get antsy and go, and then he would hard count after the Omaha and jump. And so, again, when you listen to Manning doing it, listen to the Omaha, that restarts the cadence, and then he can get him to jump on the second cadence, as well as seeing what the defense is doing while he's going through his mannerisms.
Got him. He's playing with him the whole time there. He knows he's setting him up with that. We're good. We're good.
Yeah, we're good.
Which now the defense, they hear that. They're, hey, I'm about to get off the ball. I'm about to go make a play. And then he tricks him with the Omaha. Gets it. Earmuffs. That was a great coaching point. A lot of coaches out here say, D-Joe, don't jump off sides. I think for us, we're always in that mode of like, look, you can't go off till the ball moves anyway, so I don't really care what's being said. Just watch the ball. That's the most important thing. It's kind of like when I listen to, people at baseball games telling the batter to swing. That's why he has the bat in his hand, swing the bat. But, really good stuff there, both Tom and Peyton. And, we've got some other guys that use that voice cadence both up under and in the gun, too.
Well, John Elway was very good at it as well. And in this clip that we're going to see with John, the first one is when he's under center at home and is able to use it on a short yardage situation to kind of catch the defense in a over-aggressive mode and nail them, as well as using it in the gun. So let's listen to John Elway do this. He was very good at it as well. no, they all went offside. Who was that?
Yeah, they got everybody right there. That was the Oakland Raiders, coach, which, look, sometimes we have scouting reports on certain teams that are a little bit more aggressive, a little bit more kind of, unruly at the line of scrimmage. You can get those guys. Obviously, he knew Oakland. He could get them there.
Yeah, it seemed like the Raiders sometimes are willing to take one or two of those in every game, and they were going to be aggressive regardless. They would just, they would just get off on the ball and go, and might not be the last time we see them do that.
Yeah, they'll deal with the penalty, and the coach on the sidelines yelling to all the defensive guys, good get off, good get off. We'll deal with the next play. I think one of the ones I love, too, is the first clip there, John Elway being up under. Coaches, we'd always go crazy. You're the nose guard. You're right over the ball. How can you move? You're literally 6 inches away from it, staring at it. But we also know it's where the voice inflection is the strongest when he's up under, and you're going to hear that, and you're just trying to get off the ball as much as you can. But great examples, quarterbacks there, just using the cadence to their advantage and getting some free plays and getting some yardage, with a penalty situation for sure, or, a throw downfield.
Yeah, I think when we talk about this situation, we talk about taking it to the next level. And that was really Aaron Rodgers, Coach McCarthy, and the Green Bay Packers. Once we saw how effective they were doing this, we just called this play Green Bay, and it was the concept of all this built in with a free play. So it was very intricate, well-coordinated play that they were very, very good at. It started on the offensive line, and when Rodgers would go into his cadence, the offensive line, if their man crossed into the neutral zone when Rodgers hard counted, then they would yell, go, go, and the center would snap the ball. But the guy had to move into the neutral zone. Once the center heard go, go, then he would snap it, and they'd run the play, and the receivers would run deep because everybody knew it was a free play. Let's listen to it one more time and listen for the go-go call from the tackle. That tells the center to snap the ball. Here we go again against Kansas City. Rodgers will go through his cadence in the hard count. If somebody jumps into the neutral zone, the offensive lineman, go, 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 center snaps the ball, receivers go deep, and Rodgers has a free play. Here's another look at it.
It's almost impossible. I mean, we would have to spend so much time on this, and we've talked about Aaron Rodgers a lot, how calm and cool he is, but the coordination of that, it's really, that's great. Players, great coaching, great playing, they're just on the same page. That's so hard to defend.
Really well executed. Those hard counts from the offense and all that is tough, but the defense has some answers too. They're not as dumb as everybody thinks they are.
I mean, they like to think they can just come up to the line of scrimmage, use some cadence, and we're just going to jump off the ball every time. But we had some answers coming back at them sometimes. We had some things that we can do because, look, there's a neutral zone. There's some certain things that we can do on defense. We can move and try to influence the offense when we can to get, maybe one of our own plays.
Sort of a counterpunch.
It would definitely be a counterpunch back at the offense for their cadence.
Yeah, Matt, a couple of years ago against the Eagles, this was something that we ran into where the Eagles would use the hard count and try to get the defense to jump, what we've been talking about. But kind of the answer to this for the defense is just don't jump into the neutral zone. And then when you hear the quarterback go with that hard count, to just kind of flinch but not cross into the neutral zone. And that puts a lot of pressure on the offensive line to make that decision of, is it offside or isn't it offside? It came up a couple times in this game.
Yeah, great look at it here. We know that the offensive line knows there's going to be a hard count, and there's the hard count cadence, and we just give a little bit of a flinch on defense, and we can get them to move.
Yeah, Hightower, Collins, flinching at the line of scrimmage, but not crossing into the neutral zone, and then false start here on the offense. Defense wasn't offside. They just moved. Here it is again, same look. Again, anticipating the hard count, and here's the nose, Danny Shelton, flinching, and the guard jumps, not knowing whether he's in the neutral zone or not, And so this is one way the defense can slow some of this stuff down.
Yeah, this is, the rocker right here. I love this one, right? Back up the defensive tackle a little bit, get them nervous, because those guards, they just can't wait for you to jump off sides. They can't wait to get out of their stance and, tag you and try to get the free 5 yards. So back the defensive tackle up a little bit, give them a little bit of a rocker movement, a little bit sideways, a little bit at the guard, get them to jump out, and send them back the other way. And let's slow down the double cadence and get it back to Coach Parcells. And I've heard you say this a few times too. Hey, just go on one. Let's not mess this up. We're killing ourselves here.
Yeah, the offensive linemen, they have to make that decision of is the guy in the neutral zone or not, because they're being taught, go touch the defender if he's in the neutral zone, because if he gets back, then the play's okay and they can let it go. So they got to touch him as soon as they go into the neutral zone. But now it forces the offense into making that tough decision. So that gamesmanship that goes back and forth on the cadence, defense has some counters some answers to that they can counter with.
Yeah, we're working on our side of the ball too, so we're going to have some answers to that stuff that the offense is doing for sure. And look, the hard count, all that stuff, a lot of it happens for the offenses when they're at home, when they're in their home stadium and they can use cadence. But we have some, cadence on the road too. We're going to have silent count, things like that, where the offense is trying to manipulate the defense and get them to do all the same thing with different center head movements, a little bit different type of cadence on the road.
Yeah, the big thing for the offensive line and for the center is, do you want the center to have his head up or his head between his legs? But one way or another, either the center or the guard, somebody makes a movement to kind of let everybody know, hey, after the center makes his move, the quarterback, we're going to snap the ball to the quarterback in a count or 2 counts, whatever it is. And it's a kind of a timing thing. So after the center's ready to go, quarterback's ready to go, then center moves his head, ball snapped. But every once in a while, the silent version of the hard count is for the center to move his head, snap his head, but not snap the ball. And that's why the defense should always watch the ball.
Just watch the ball. And those guys are trying to get off, and they're trying to get to the quarterback as fast as they can. But, the center's going to give the head bob maybe a little bit of a turn. And I think we got another clip here of, an offense that's getting ready for a game plan against a team maybe in silver and black here, and maybe they got a shot at a double head count.
Well, they're on the road. Quarterback checks the play, talks to the guard. Guard's going to tap the center. Center snaps his head. Oh.
Little flinch, little get off, and we get the free 5 yards. Again, they shut the play down before everyone can go vertical like we saw before. But on the road, good opportunity to get the Raiders right there.
Yeah, here's another version of it with the offensive line, guard, tapping the center, head movement. And again, normally he would make that head movement and then snap the ball. But in this case, it's a delay, and it keeps the defense from timing up their blitz, from getting a great jump on the ball. Like, this slows down the next team that plays the Steelers here as well. Here's another one on 4th and 3. Looks like it's going to be a rush.
Yeah, they're coming after it. Everybody's at the line of scrimmage, and, the protection's trying to figure out who they got. Maybe they can get a tip with a little bit of a double cadence and just try to slow it down. And, I think we're going to get them right here.
Yeah, this is to try to slow down the rush. Look back, look up. Oh.
Coach, what team is that?
Yeah, I think looks like the Raiders.
Looks like, yeah, we got some silver and black on here jumping off the ball. We're going to have to get that, put them back on sides here.
Right, another 4th and long situation, 4th and 13. Looks like the rush is coming. Again, those long yardage situations are times when the punt return team likes the rush, especially around midfield, where there's probably not much of a chance for a return anyway. Inside the 50, or at the 50, it's about 10% return. So not many chances to return the ball here. So let's come after them. And one thing that slows down the rush here,
double head
center
ball.
Mannerisms.
Yep, there it is. And again, in those long situations, longer yardage situations like you're talking about, as a coach, we're always trying to weigh, all right, what is the penalty? What could be the penalty? And running in is one thing. Roughing, obviously, is another. That's never allowed. But you have a little bit of leeway there, too. So let's be a little bit aggressive. Let's get the rush and get after the punter and try to affect them for those plays.
But no different than the defense. Punt return team, field goal rush team should always watch the ball.
Coach, another cadence hard count, really kind of a unique situation comes up here, one that we call iceberg. And we have defined iceberg, a couple points that I think are really important when we talk about it. And really, it's something that usually happens at home. when the quarterback's up under center. At the end of the first and third quarters, where time is kind of, just before the quarter ends, or right before the 2-minute warning. Those would be a couple earmarks that we look at as far as where the iceberg occurs. But really, the most important thing here, Coach, is the clock.
Yes, the time on the play clock needs to be more than the time on the game clock. So if the offense comes to the line of scrimmage at the end of the quarter or before the 2-minute warning and tries to get the defense to jump offside and they don't jump, then they can just let it go to the 2-minute warning or to the end of the quarter and walk to the other end of the field. So iceberg is kind of a term that is used to describe that situation, all encompassing both sides of the ball. Offense, draw them offside. If they don't jump, go to the end of the quarter. Defense, be alert for them trying to draw you offside. But the offense still could run a play. And that situation came up in the opener between Cincinnati and New England. 2:08 to go in the second quarter with the clock running. 16 seconds, 15 on the 40-second clock. So time here to try to get Cincinnati to jump offside. And they do. They're trying to time up a blitz. And they end up jumping the count. And there's the free 5 yards, and now there's a 2-minute warning. If they hadn't jumped offside, New England could have taken the 2-minute warning and run the play after the 2-minute.
Yeah, so kind of the iceberg terminology, a lot of times we use the word like freeze or ice or iceberg in this particular case, just to let everybody know, like, hey, listen, we're trying to draw them off sides offensively. Defense, hey, a reminder, hey, freeze here a little bit, make sure the ball is snapped, see what they're trying to do. But that clock situation that comes up, it's just smart football. It's trying to get a free play and using that cadence to influence the defense when you can to try to get that play. Yeah,
if the clock is stopped, then it's really not an iceberg situation. The clock has to be running, but more time on the play clock than the game clock.
Yep.
There are some unusual situations in football. One of the most unusual situations is the free kick. Seems like that happens about once a decade. There's another one that's the 1-point safety, and that almost happened in the Monday night game between Buffalo and Jacksonville. The 1-point safety, let's take a minute to explain how this can happen. It would first of all be on a point after try. So it could be a point after kick, or it could be a 2-point play that was executed after the touchdown. And if it's a safety by either team, which normally a safety would be worth 2 points, but in this case, a safety by either team on a point after try, PAT, would only be worth 1 point. And we almost had that situation come up in the Monday night game. Let's take a look at it.
Yeah, really obscure rule here. Kind of, if you're obsessed with situational football, you love these plays. But here in this point after try, obviously the kick is blocked, right? So it goes over the line of scrimmage at this point. And, from a standpoint of recovery, if the team that blocked it recovers it here in this situation, maintains possession, and goes into the end zone, at that point, if they're trying to attempt to bring the ball, back out of the end zone at this point, then we have a safety situation that could come up.
Right, and it's all about impetus. In other words, who put the ball into the end zone? Is it the kick that carried the ball into the end zone, or is it the, in this case, defensive player who, let's say, catches the ball, and if he were to carry it into the end zone, then it's his responsibility to bring it out. If the ball, because of the kick, carries into the end zone, even though the defender touches it, that would be impetus and not possession. So in this case, let's say that the Jacksonville player possessed the ball, carried it into the end zone, and then got tackled or downed it on his own. That would be a 1-point safety. It was almost that the call here was actually impetus, so the kick went into the end zone. It was downed here, and it was ruled that the kick carried the ball into the end zone, so not a safety here. But pretty close. Interesting rule. 1-point safety.
Yeah, I think this is something that the coaches are going to take a look at this week, remind the players, and go through this kind of obscure situation.
The end of all defensive effort against every running play and every completed pass is, of course, the tackle. As the offensive lineman is taught to drive through his opponent with his block, the defensive man must learn to drive through the ball carrier with his tackle. Tackling begins with the basic football position. Feet spread, eyes on the opponent. The tackle must drive through the opponent, feet pumping, and lift.
Coach, we're back in the library, and we're going to talk tackling fundamentals. Got a little bit of an old school clip there with Vince Lombardi. And Coach, what do we pull out of the library here? What do we got?
Well, we have a few old books here. Start with Football for Coaches and Players by Glenn Pop Warner. Here we are right here on page 30, 31, Tackling Fundamentals. This is from 1927, Pop Warner.
Obviously, Pop Warner, great league. That's where I started playing football.
Right.
But the things that we're taught at an early age on tackling, and certainly as we go through all this, like trying to tackle safe.
Yeah, absolutely. Head up, see what you hit. Yeah, 1932, Bernard Oakes, talking about line play, tackling, another whole chapter on it right there. There's a good look at it right there, a good shoulder tackle.
Form tackle right there. I mean, this is almost 100 years here, Coach, of us talking tackling.
We have tackling dummies.
Right.
So we'll get to those later. And really, I would say a signature book here by George Allen. George Allen's new Handbook of Football Drills, 1975, where George Allen went through all of his drills in all phases of the game. Another tackling drill and so forth, right pretty close to the front of the book. So a very important fundamental that's been written about really from the beginning of football, when it was invented and when it's played. It's always about getting the guy with the ball on the ground.
Get him on the ground. And we got, the 1920s, 1930s tackling books there, which are amazing. And then, the new book comes out almost 50 years later, 40, 50 years later, and we kind of, reemphasize that. Just on a side note, though, as we were digging through the library, I always, when I see Newt Rockne coaching books, thought this was interesting. I was like, maybe we'll see some defensive stuff in here or find something that would be interesting. And I opened up the cover of the book, Coach, and we're just pulling out Newt Rockne autographs out of thin air here. We've autographed this, personalized it, and just sitting on our shelves back there is a Newt Rockne autograph book. That's pretty amazing, Coach.
Yeah, well, as my dad was a collector of books, and he found some gems in his day.
No doubt. Well, we have some some great old school books there that talk about the fundamentals of tackling, and we've got some old school clips here too.
Yeah, let's take a look at how tackling was taught coming back in the day here. Not too much different than the way it is now.
Now let's see how a defensive player goes about making a good tackle. Live tackling develops the timing and precision necessary for a sharp, clean, hard tackle, the kind that brings a man down and keeps him down. For a head-on tackle, the tackler keeps his feet widely spread and well under him. He charges his shoulder into the ball carrier's waistline, lifts, and drives on through.
Well, that's a pretty good example of keeping your head up, seeing what you hit, near shoulder, near leg, and wrap up on contact.
Yeah, good leverage, your base underneath you, your feet, inside your framework, all the things we still talk about. I love seeing these clips. I just love the books, the video, re-emphasizing the things that we're still talking about, still coaching, the safety of the tackle, what that looks like, all the points you mentioned of making sure that we're teaching it the right way and spending time on it. And, we have an encyclopedia of our own that we emphasized here. So we're going to take a look at our playbook on tackling here as we kind of go into the fundamentals of tackling for us. Well,
here we go. Tackling is one of the most basic fundamentals of football at any level. And so learning how to tackle and how to get the runner on the ground couldn't get more basic. So here we are in the encyclopedia. And as we open the book and start to look at the pages here, tackling fundamentals, inline tackling, space tackling, some alternative tackles, and stepping into contact. And we've seen some examples of that in some of the old-time films. And stepping into contact, that comes with an illustration here on how to step into contact.
Yeah, and really, we're going to talk inline tackling here first. Space tackling is something, that we kind of break out of that. But we're just talking about inline tackling. It's going to happen quickly. You got to be in that good football position, knees bent, all the things that we talked about that we saw on the tape. And usually, sometimes with these, you got to defeat a blocker first to get in that position.
Yeah, there are a few times when those defensive linemen or linebackers around the line of scrimmage have a clean shot at the runner, and that's great. But the majority of the time, they have to defeat a blocker, come off a block, and sometimes even engage with a blocker when they make the tackle. So being in a good football position with your knees bent, a lot of times these front seven players have to defeat blockers. A lot of times they're making a tackle when they're coming off a block, and they don't always have a clean shot at them. But maintaining your leverage, whether it's inside out or outside in, rolling your hips with your head up is so important. See what you hit. And the finish of the tackle, wrap the arms with your head up. And inline tackling is really about, good fundamentals executing those properly, and sometimes, again, coming off a block or dealing with somebody who's on you as you're trying to make the tackle.
Yeah, and we will say it over and over and over just to reemphasize the point: head up, head up, head up. See what you hit, and even just as the equipment has changed through the years, the shoulder pads have gotten a little smaller. We used to be able to kind of seat the helmet kind of in the back of the shoulder pads there to protect it, but the main point there is just always being in that good football position. And then we're really talking about stepping into contact and what that means. Are we going to use near foot, near shoulder? Are we going to use far foot, far shoulder? Are we getting the head across, making sure that the eyes are up in that position, but just getting into that step to contact football position before we make that tackle?
Yes, and the diagram here on the far left, the starting position, whatever leverage the tackler has, the T here has, if he's coming, in this case, from the right to the left, stay in that position. Don't get across and let the runner cut back on you and take away the leverage that you have. Maintain your leverage here, and so if he tries to run away from you, the other players can come in and see your leverage and maintain theirs. Stepping with the head across, that's far foot, far shoulder. A lot of times that includes putting your head or your face mask on the ball to try to knock the ball out as you secure the tackle, or near foot, near shoulder if you can't get across in front, near foot, near shoulder, and step into contact. So in this case, it'll be left foot, left shoulder where you have the most power.
Yeah, and we're really trying to then, like you mentioned before, roll the hips, drive into the man, finish, squeeze, wrap them up, and finish through the man as you're stepping into contact, coming with that good force and kind of that explosive power on contact there.
Well, we have a play where there was a pretty good step into contact. It was at the Pro Bowl. This is Sean Taylor. I don't know, the head coach called it a fake punt. That was a stupid call, and wow, what a hit that was. Maybe that's why they don't have the Pro Bowl anymore.
I mean, that was, the real story behind this play as I was on the headsets. I'm in the lower right on this one. I remember our special teams coordinator, Brad Seeley at the time, asking, hey, Coach, should we try that fake punt here? Is that a good time? And you got a little bit of that smile on your face and said, yeah, I think this would be good. No one's really playing that hard. It wasn't a really aggressive game at that point. And we called it. And out of the right corner of my eye, I saw a flash. He was moving at a completely different speed than everybody else. Now, Mormon was running. He was fast. He was fast. He wanted to get the first down. He was coming through. Sean Taylor appeared out of nowhere, and it was a yard sale. I mean, there was mouthpieces, ear pads. His equipment was everywhere on the field at that point. Slight smile on our face, I think, at that point, too. He was okay. He was all right.
Thankfully.
Got up. He was okay.
Boy, he took a hit.
He took a big hit.
It honestly reminded me of a play that I called when I was the special teams coach with the Giants, where we'd run a number of fake punts successfully, and this play was a throwback to Jennings, and Jennings, who was in the L.A. Coliseum, ran the fake punt and got hit right on the sideline and got obliterated, almost like Mormon did here. Same thing. He ended up over by the team doctors and the cheerleaders with his helmet and mouthpiece and everything else off. And Coach Perkins looked at me and said, you ever call that again, we're going to be a new special team coach.
Right.
So that was it for the fake punts that year. But
all those specialists like to, hey, let me run with the ball. Let me run with the ball until
there's contact.
You get hit by one of those guys coming at you full speed. That's a different story.
Well, that was a good tackle right there. And, there's a story behind a missed tackle. A missed tackle by, at that time, the leading tackler in the history of the National Football League, Junior Seau. And this was a game against the Seahawks, and Junior had just joined us. I think he came from the rodeo. And here he is spotlighted, and this is going to be a little pass over here to Deion Branch. And Branch makes the catch, and you see Junior misses him. And there he is over there on the sideline.
He wound up about 5 yards behind me. I throw him back in the game at that point.
Yeah, get back in there,
You're
Junior.
yelling. I grab him by the back of the jersey. I'm like, go back in there and get this guy down. I think this was like a 60-plus yard play on this particular check down there to Deion. Junior, this was an interesting story. Obviously, this play caused a lot of sparks, caused some fireworks.
There were a lot of fireworks after this play.
This week, but leading up to this game, if you remember, we had some injury situations this year, and it was one of those ones where you walked in and said, hey, let's find out where Junior is, see where he's at. He was actually in Fiji when I called him. I called him, I said, Junior, where are you? He goes, I'm in Fiji. I was like, the island? Like where? He's like, Fiji. I'm like, what are you doing? He's like, surfing. I was like, great. How soon can you get back here? He's like, I can fly tomorrow. This was early in the week. This is Tuesday. He goes, who are you playing? I said, Seattle. He goes, great. I'll meet you in Seattle. So I went back and I said, Coach, Junior's in Fiji. He'll meet us in Seattle before the game. And, of course, you were like, he's got to pass a physical. He's got to fly all the way back to New England. So he literally leaves Fiji, flies to New England, right? I think he got there 2 days later, passes the physical. We throw him back on a plane, fly him to Seattle, assure him the night you won't go out there. You're not going to play. You'll be fine. Just get dressed, get back into your routine. We'll shoot for next week. Well, we had some injuries in this game. Sure enough, he's got to go. Throw him out there. I think this is his first open field tackle after surfing, for the last 4 months before that. And
it didn't go well.
Monday was not well. We walked into the staff room and we had some things to talk about this play. And you looked at me and you said, all right, well, you tell him on Wednesday, bring his pads after practice. We were practicing in California that week. Yeah,
so we stayed after. We played in Seattle and then flew down to San Jose, actually.
Yep.
Practiced at San Jose State, home of the Spartans. And we had practice there on Wednesday. So, yeah, I told you. I said, look, Junior needs some tackling practice. Of course, at the time, Junior was the all-time leading tackler in the history of the National Football League. I think he's third now behind, Ray Lewis. But he was a great tackler, had a great career, very productive career. He wasn't too happy about that tackling practice.
Yeah, so as I walked in that meeting on Wednesday, I said, hey, Junior, make sure, because we were not practicing in pads at that point. It was a little bit later in the year. So make sure you bring your pads to practice today. You have some extra tackling drills to do after practice. And he just looked at me really angrily and was like, did Bill tell you this? And I was like, yeah. He goes, does he know I'm the all-time leading tackler in the NFL? And I was like, well, yeah, you'd have one more if you just tackled Dion in that play. Bring your pads. We got to go. And he kind of just had this look. And, I remember after practice, he walked over, he put his pads on. And we've got Ben Jarvis Green Ellis, who's a really
big,
good,
tough, strong
tough guy. But he's a rookie at this point. And I said, all right, Benny, we're just going to couple slow tackles here, put them about 10 yards apart. Honestly, Coach, that it was awful. I mean, Junior hit him as hard as I've ever seen anybody get hit, drove him to the ground, gets up, looks at us, says, is that good enough? And you're like, run another. Benny goes back. We did about 5-6 times. Benny's looking at me like, please blow the whistle. Please stop. Junior tackled him. Every time he tackled him, get back up. Is that enough? Is that enough? I think you had proven your point. I think Junior got his timing back under. I think Benny couldn't wait for that to be over. It was really one of the most amazing stories with a great player. Great person that we had on our team, but literally was in Fiji 4 days earlier. And then, 2 days after the game, he's out there tackling Ben Jarvis Green Ellis in a live tackling drill.
Yeah, it was a train wreck. And then we were laughing about it walking off the field. Loved Junior.
Yeah, he loved it.
God bless him.
He loved it, loved all of it. And look, I think even for Benny at that point, that was kind of a rite of passage. He was like, if I can get tackled by this guy, I'm going to be all right.